After Tyler disappeared, Anwen decided the best course of action was to keep going. Just a bit further down the path sat a small area where the river collected into small pools. This was due to a series of man-made stone walls that led towards a stone bridge. The sight of the unusual architecture was more than enough to distract Anwen from Tyler's absence. She took a few steps forward, staring at the strange stalagmite-infested underside of the bridge. It looked more like something one would find in an underground cavern than something out over open water. Courtney waved from the foot of the bridge, signaling for Anwen to come over. Reasoning Tyler might have distracted her just to sprint ahead, Anwen moved to join her casual friend. Having come closer, she stopped to get a better view of the bridge.
Funny looking, isn't it?
Courtney asked as Anwen finally reached her.
No one's sure how it got here, but it's been here for hundreds of years. Longer than the mill.
She pointed towards the now visible building on the far side of the river. A meadow of sorts gave way to the trees surrounding the whole area. Anwen looked towards the mill and noticed a giant water wheel still in motion. The mill race, suspended over the apparatus, poured the contained water over the wheel.
It still works,
she said in awe. She noticed a wooden plank bridge spanning the river over the wheel. It came from an open doorway on the first floor of the building.
Of course. It's ancient craftsmanship at its finest.
Courtney suppressed a smug smile.
Even the grist part still works. Come on, I'll show you.
Following Courtney onto the bridge, Anwen noticed the entire structure seemed to be made of stone. Someone had carved uneven steps into the rock, though it looked more like the stone had formed that way. The occasional branch had somehow been added to the structure, as a railing on the more open side. At the far end, an almost cave-like tunnel heralded the end of the bridge. It spilled out onto a rock-paved path that led right to the mill. Courtney led her up the steps to the front entrance of the building. An open maw waited where a door might have once stood, but now nothing kept intruders out. The floors were made from long slabs of weathered wood nailed in place by metal spikes. Some of the crude nails had begun to come loose from their holes. A wooden staircase bent halfway around the building. In the middle of the main floor sat a sealed circular vat, a square funnel leading into it from above.
The grinding mechanism is inside that. It activates the mill,
Courtney explained, pointing to the rounded drum of stone.
You just pull that lever there to activate it.
She indicated a long wooden protrusion next to the stairs.
But I don't think anyone's used it in years. Personally, I'd rather not be the first to try.
Anwen kept her distance from the room's center. All the same, she appreciated the complexity of the seemingly simple machine.
I wonder if Tyler knows any interesting facts about this place.
She mused as she moved further into the building and up the first part of the stairs.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Courtney snorted.
But you won't get anything out of him until he gets back.
Anwen spun from her position halfway up the stairs and stared down, thankful for the sturdy railing.
What do you mean? I thought he just went ahead and was up here hiding or something, trying to scare us.
She backed away from the edge. Laughing in amusement, Courtney shook her head.
No, I saw him just before I got to the bridge. He said there was something he had to take care of, and that he'd be back as soon as he could. He also told me to make sure you didn't get into trouble, or fall into the water, or something like that.
She winked, rubbing at one eyebrow. Anwen pursed her lips. The headache from earlier was creeping back.
Then why didn't I see him going back?
Had he only held her hostage for those few minutes to just march off and do whatever errand he fancied? It didn't make much sense. Courtney shrugged.
Maybe you just weren't paying close enough attention. Who knows? Besides, Tyler can be quite elusive when he wants to be.
The grin she flashed was almost predatory and made Anwen shiver.
I guess,
she managed half-heartedly as she continued up the stairs. Looking out one window, she noticed the bridge running across the dam next to the water wheel. If she went back to the main floor, she'd be able to reach the doorway that led to it. It was possible she'd get a better view of the crazy stone bridge further upstream if she did, but even with the branch-woven railings, she doubted she'd be comfortable standing there. Deciding to wait to find out, Anwen moved further along the top story's uneven flooring. She went to peer out the other window. This one overlooked the far side of the river as it headed towards Lake Wyvern. The lake was hidden, in part, by the stretch of trees surrounding the shores. Despite that, she could see the mountains surrounding the lake. Trying to get a better view, Anwen leaned a bit out of the window, but quickly pulled back as a sudden wave of dizziness filled her. It took a moment, but the feeling began to fade once she closed her eyes.
Just a little vertigo.
She told herself with the added reminder to not do that again. She'd pushed her limits enough for one day. A random brush of air caressed her neck as she moved away from the opening. A small stab of pain registered. It felt like something had stung her from behind and she reached out to slap the offending bug.
What the?
She began, but blinked as the room began to move. It made everything warped and twisted, churning the contents of her stomach even more. Anwen let out a slight gasp, trying to swallow back the bile in her throat as the window seemed to tilt to one side in slow motion. The sensation made the whole room feel like it was moving in the opposite direction. She reached out to the wall for support but misjudged the distance, almost blindly flailing in front of her. As her vision became more blurry, Anwen fell to the floor with a loud thud. The timbers shuddered under her with the impact, sending dust down on Courtney below. From the first floor, the blonde-haired girl looked up at the unexpected sound.
Anna? Anna, are you okay?
Not getting an answer, Courtney pounded up the stairs, almost tripping over a spike that protruded from the last stair. It took her a moment to spot her somewhat friend lying unconscious by the far window. Almost flying the last few feet, she knelt by Anwen's side, shaking her.
Hey, this isn't funny. Wake up.
When the auburn-haired girl didn't respond, Courtney looked around with large eyes.
Tyler's going to kill me.
She uttered, her voice changing pitch.
Come on, Anna, please.
The wind picked up, whipping her long hair, and she moved to brush it aside. A dark shadow fell over both teens as Courtney turned back to the unconscious girl. It stretched up the wall like a menacing beast. Her heart thudded in her chest as she made to slowly turn around. Before she could so much as turn her shoulder, the shadow's owner was upon her.
What did you do to her?
Tyler yelled as he thrust Courtney aside, using far more strength than he'd normally use on a mortal. His whole body shook with fury. Courtney tumbled, then skid across the floor. She shivered in the corner where she landed, legs askew in front of her, her expression filled with shock. It took a moment for her to find her breath. For the briefest of moments, she thought Tyler's eyes had changed color as he stared at her with anger-filled eyes.
What did you do?
Not giving her a chance to answer, he leaned over Anwen, every muscle in his back taut under his shirt. Whispering, he tenderly caressed her face before moving his fingers to her neck.
Can you hear me?
He was heartened to feel a pulse under his fingertips. Tears leaked out of the corner of Courtney's eyes as she stared at the scene before her, heart beating far too quickly as events unfolded.
I didn't do anything!
She screamed.
Honest, I didn't do anything. I wasn't even near her. I was downstairs looking out at the river.
Tyler turned a cold expression her way.
How can I believe you? I know you've been messing with her from the beginning. Don't even try denying it, because I watched you most carefully.
Sobbing, Courtney tried to pull herself together, moving to a more comfortable sitting position. She didn't dare move closer to Anwen because of the look in Tyler's eyes.
I promise.
She gasped between sobs.
I promise. It wasn't me.
You're lucky she's alive.
He retorted through clenched teeth.
What did you do? Tell me.
There was a dangerous light in his eyes as he stared her down. Courtney ran dirty hands through her hair, the tears streaking down her face as she yanked at the tangles.
It wasn't me.
She screamed.
Yes, I messed with her on the path. Yes, I've been trying to make her jealous. I thought she was trying to win you over. But I swear on the sacred shrine that I did not do this.
Exhaling, Tyler stared at her face, taking a few seconds to evaluate her sincerity while he cooled down.
It's not wise to swear by the shrine,
He admonished.
but I believe you.
Before she could respond, he waved a hand.
But that means something else is after her, and we can't let that happen. She may not look like it, but she's the only person who can save us all, you included. So if you value anything, you have to help me get her somewhere safe. After we do that, I'll decide if I can trust you.
Courtney's eyes widened at this new side of her companion.
I can do that.
she said, standing with caution. Her muscles pinged, but she felt intact, more or less.
I know a place nearby that I sometimes use to get away from everyone. I'm pretty sure no one else knows about it.
Tyler nodded.
You'd better hope you're right.
He swept Anwen up into his arms, her body as limp as a kite with no wind to carry it.
Show me.
Moving towards the stairs, Courtney looked back to see if he was following.
It's on the other side of the river. The fastest way across is over the wheel.
With a nod from Tyler, she led the way back to the main floor and towards the doorway that opened over the mill race. Overhead, a raven flew over the trees, cawing incessantly. Looking up, Tyler chewed the inside of his cheek, eyes intent as he reached out with his senses.
We'll have to hurry. And if you know any spells of concealment, I suggest using them.
He advised.
That's no ordinary bird.
Courtney nodded, trying to think of the most useful enchantment she knew. Making a quick movement with her hands, she seemed to almost weave a net in the air above them.
Best I can do under the circumstances, though it won't last long.
She apologized.
Just try to keep up with me, because I don't think either of us wants to stop and see what it wants.
With that, she flew out the door like a horse released from the starting gate. Tyler sprinted out behind her. It was easy to keep pace with Courtney as they navigated across the somewhat rickety bridge. It only took moments for them to safely reach the other side and solid ground. Anwen secured in his arms. Courtney veered towards a copse of trees, irregular in pattern from the others. The trees were a bit darker in color, but only to those who took the time to notice. Darting across the open space, they both moved in tandem to the cover of the dark growth. Once there, they followed a hidden root trail that led past the first marker.
This way.
Courtney called as she took a quick turn towards a boulder sitting several dozen yards to the right. Once past that, she set her sights on the other strand of trees, then an old fence. After that, she changed course once more, heading into the deeper part of the forest, climbing uphill.